Welcome to a product guide for a Kamlan 50mm f1.1 fully manual lens. Now, a standout feature of this lens is the F11 Aperture. Now, before we get into this very fast f-stop, let's look at this lens in general. So it's a fixed focal prime lens with no ability to zoom in or out, and also is a fully manual lens, which means it's got no communication between the lens and the camera. So that means there's no autofocus, no aperture control, and not even any metadata. But it has 12 aperture blades, weighs at 269 grams, and has a full metal construction. The build quality is extremely good, with a nice smooth focus ring and a clickless aperture. It makes the lens a pleasure to use for both photography and also video. The lens is supplied with a dedicated lens hood, which is plastic, and fully recommended to use at all times. Now, it's a 50mm lens at f1.1, which means it's got huge glass elements at the front, which makes the lens look amazing and something really quite special. Now, when looking at lenses of this price point, I always like to compare it to the standard kit zoom lens you're likely to already have with your camera, like this 14 to 45mm here. And exactly the difference you'll get by upgrading or using this type of lens. Now, with the kit lens at 45mm, it's a similar focal range to this one at 50, but this one would have an f-stop of only f5.6. Now, as I've already mentioned, the standout feature of this lens is extremely fast f-stop at f1.1. This means that this lens here is capable of lessening 4 extra stops of light than this one would be at f5.6. Now, let's look at exactly what that would mean. So this image is of a kit lens. Now, it's a 45mm f5.6 and 40 a second ISO 100. As you can see, it's almost 3 stops underexposed. So now look what happens if I keep the camera settings the same but change the lens to the Kamlan 50mm, and now we're going to change the f-stops to f1.1, and you can see exactly how much more light this lens is now going to give me. Now, another way of showing this is with ISO. Now, here my camera has been raised to ISO 1600. So exposure is correct, but I'm probably going to get a noisier image. Now, if I swap the lens again without changing the shutter speed, which is of a 125th of a second, I can now lower the ISO all the way down to 100 and get the same exposure and a cleaner image. So now let's have a look at sharpness. Now, again, comparing it to the kit zoom lens is 14 to 45mm. So here we can see a test shot under controlled lighting and shooting the same subject with the same composition. Now, both lenses are f5.6, they're ISO 200. The shutter speeds are about the same, we've got one 125th of a second and one 30th of a second. Now, the one on the left is the Kamlan. Now let's zoom in and let's see the difference. So straight away you can see how much sharper this lens is. The details and the contrast in the centre are great. Now, I can't compare against the kit zoom lens or any other faster f-stops than 5.6 because it's already at its fastest. However, let's just have a quick look at the faster f-stops that the Kamlan can produce. Here you can see the f4 and f2.8 are still very sharp, and it's not until you get to the f2 and the f1.1 that the sharpness drops off a little. So as you can see, this lens is more than capable of producing very sharp images even at f1.1. Now, I have to point out, so far we've compared this lens to the kit zoom lens, which is versatile. It can zoom in and out, it's got autofocus, image stabilization and aperture control. So as I said, a very versatile and easy to use little lens. But the Kamlan is more of a specialised lens, one which is going to be outstandingly good but only for a small number of subjects. For example, because of the manual focus of this lens, taking pictures of anything moving, sports, children, wildlife, anything like that will be almost impossible. But what this lens will be good for is as a portrait lens. With a fast f1.1 aperture, the background bokeh is amazing, and the 50mm prime has a great focal range, especially on a micro four thirds system. So here are some more shots taken, but this time of a real subject. So in this image you can see the shallow depth of field working at f1.1. The closest eye to us here is in focus, but the other eye is completely out of focus. Now, where this could also be useful is when you've got objects in the background. Now, these were just test shots, so not processed at all. However, in this one shot at f5.6 you can see buildings in the background, but when you change the lens to f1.1 they almost completely disappear. This one you can see the nice smooth bokeh you get from a 12 aperture blades, and this one shows the sharpness is still there even at f1.1. Here again you can see the nice smooth bokeh the lens gives, and these last three images are all shot around f2 to f2.8, so we'll be a little sharper, but you can really see how sharp the lens can be in this image here. So for further details of this lens and other alternative products like this, then please visit www.altphotostore.com.